Extremes across the planet that we have never seen before just keep piling up like a layer cake of disaster. The record cold that's inbound into the US this next week. Are we able to handle this? Because the animals are not even able to handle this. Kind of sums up where we sit in today's age of disasters and extremes that we haven't seen before, at least in the last 2 to 300 years. But the ability to catalog that was just through words, not images, several centuries ago. Preliminary map bringing us out to the 24th through the weekend show ground temperatures here, single digits all the way down into the southeast US. It seems as if the entire Arctic Circle has shifted toward North America. And if you want to quantify it in terms of anomalies, like how different it is based on the 1991 to 2020 temperatures, that 30-year range is the average. That area in purple where I am in the center there, something like 30 degrees Fahrenheit below the normal, along with the ice storms and snow inbound later this week. But starting with the temperatures, I'll bring you the updated ice forecast in the next video. It's happening so fast that these forecasts are changing, but look how far south the freezing temperatures go. All the way down 25 Fahrenheit down into central Florida, and this is going to swing all the way into Cuba as well. Now our maps here for the 2-meter temperature coming up on the 30th of January puts the Keys in Florida at below freezing. Water turns to ice, like Everglades will have a glaze of ice on them. Please remember in the 1600s, Seminole First Peoples talked about ice being in the Everglades, glazes of ice, not super thick like Alaskan sea ice or whatever, but they called it the Great White Rain when it was really cold for a decade or so. And every winter they would get glazes of ice on the Everglades freshwater surfaces. I think this is returning, so it shows more of a cycle than anything. And speaking of cold, 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below into the sub-zeros. The run length of days, 32 days so far. I know this record has been increasing up to around 37 days. It hasn't eclipsed 40 days yet, but we need to go way back into the centennial minimum. 1918 and a little bit further back, even 1909 or so, is when we get this really brutal cold, low solar activity, chilliness. And you start to think about, okay, a lot of people haven't experienced 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So how cold is that really? It is so cold that your phones, your laptops, your cameras will not charge. And inside your house, your entire pipes can be frozen in under 4 hours. That could end up splitting in under 4 hours. That's how cold that is. Hard to really put it into perspective because most of us will never experience this type of cold, but it's becoming far more common. And what do you do in Alaska if it's dark and you don't have anything to do in the snow? I guess you bring out an excavator and, well, imagination is key to survival, I guess, in the Alaskan winters. Also key to survival, not getting too close to big icicles and waterfalls like that. A little bit dangerous, I would say. Be wary of icicles above your heads, especially after some of these events where it's going to be freezing rain. Follow nature, follow the ducks. Even they're stranded and having difficulty moving through the ice. One breaks through, just follow the ducks, we'll be okay. And do take clues from nature. If your dogs or cats are hesitant to go outside and they're looking around, you should be too. You shouldn't just walk out, hey, come on. Nature's going to warn you of something that they don't feel is safe either. Icicles, after these ice storms that are come rolling through all the southeast US down to Texas and just these incredible amounts of snow, you need to be careful because those icicles hanging down are going to be just like that, but a little bit smaller, hanging off almost every building. Everywhere there's an edge, it'll be on the power lines when the power's not there. It'll be just everywhere. There's going to be a lot more, let's say, falling hazard of ice moving forward through the next 2 weeks. Just be aware of that when you move around. And also another common sense thing, when you see an avalanche moving at you at this speed with this much force still behind it, you probably want to get inside something. If you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now might be a smart time to talk to noblegoldinvestments.com. No sales gimmicks, no pressure, just a strategy, clear answers built around your goals. That's 2030gold.com. And the January silver bonus, a 3-ounce American Virtues Independent Silver Round, available for new qualified accounts. Building your portfolio for the long term. That's 2030gold.com. Click on that link in the description box below. Now, this is at the end of the avalanche, so you probably dive in that Quonset hut there, get into a building, in an emergency, jump into a car. It's probably not going to cover you 8 feet deep, but it'll definitely have a difficulty on your breath right there. You're going to have difficulty breathing with all that aerated snow coming at you. Kamchatka Peninsula, record snows blasting all records back to the 1870s. This is in Russia. Kamchatka Peninsula. This is how deep it got in one single snowstorm. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Kamchatka Peninsula, it is orange there. You can see in the north and east of Russia, just across from Alaska over there. So it puts it in that same perspective of it's 0 degrees for that many days in a row in Alaska. You're just a stone's throw away from Alaska. So cooler temperatures as well, and also some of the rock art that's been seen up there, and I'm sure there's a heap more that's not been found. Could you describe this as plasma discharge? I am not sure, but they do see the plasma jellyfish right there. We call those red sprites, jellyfish red sprites. So maybe they were much more intense at a certain period of time with a higher electrified sky. They only received probably about, 3 to 4 feet of snow, and then they got the drifts that were rolling up between 10 and 30 feet tall. So if you see drifts that are 180 feet tall, that's AI. 10 foot deep, piling up, especially with just minimal wind blowing. The dig out of the cars here looks something, we don't see this too often. We've seen it a couple times. Buffalo had it once, probably like 2015, 16, but you just don't normally get this type of super deep snow like this. Aerial whiteout, and I brought you the number 146-year record broken, and that was on January 17th, just a few days back. And what it just looks like generally across these cities here, but they're used to snow anyway. It's not like it just snowed for the first time ever. They are used to very deep, very heavy snows, and this paralyzed them. So when you look at it, there's people digging their cars out here. This is the depth of the snow. Now, the actual snowfall itself was not this deep. The drifts and the blowing snow caused it to come between, like I say, 10 and 30 feet on the drifts. Some of these 4-floored buildings had snow drifts up to the 3rd, almost 4th floor. Only a couple instances of that. It wasn't the whole city. So you can differentiate the AI out of this. These are coming from established news sources. And the same photos, how deep is this? Like, even if you get your car dug out of there, you're not going anywhere. As an emergency heater place to jump into if your building fails for heat, yeah, that's a good place to go. If you got gas and you could stay in there for a few hours to heat up. But to put it in perspective, Russia is so gigantic as a landmass. This is an unbelievable fact here. 6.3 million Russians were born last year. But in Nigeria, that tiny little country down there, 7.5 million births per year. And on Vinci Sky, I had to pull it out, going with forecast. Same with us. We're going to get down to these same temperatures as Moscow and Russia are going to get over there, as well as we are getting in North America. So get into the sub-zero temperature range here. It is literally everywhere happening across the Northern Hemisphere, these extreme cold events. It's like our entire world in the northern half is being plunged into a mini ice age. But here we go with the snow cover. Now that black line up there shows it's far above outside standard deviation. I think it's 2 standard deviations here. That black, it's just touching on the 2nd standard deviation, rolling up above that. So the snow cover is a little bit more, and this is even a couple weeks ago. There's been much more snow since that time. That should definitely eclipse that 2nd deviation. But then coming over to California, Oregon, West Coast, let's say, even up into Canada there, The models, if you look at some of the mountain range areas there, you're looking at least 300 inches. Now it's off the scale. It could be 400, 500, 6 inches. We don't know. It's just off the scale, literally at 300. Now, 300 inches, that's a little bit difficult to kind of put into perspective. 25 feet. So a lot of people know 25 feet. How deep is that? Okay, well, your average utility pole, telephone pole, electric pole, from the ground all the way up to the top, that's 25 foot on average. Obviously they're below ground, some 10 feet, so they don't move. But what you see from the ground all the way to the top, that's 25 feet normally. That's how much snow there is so far this winter. Winter's far from being over. And again, at peg to scale, it could be 4, 5, 600 inches. Standard school bus, like the yellow school bus, that's approximately 25 feet long. So you got to think about it. If you get that and you turn it up, then that's about how much snow there is so far. The snowpack is going to go so far. And that's what I was saying in many other video, like, why don't they add these extra bands on top? They already know this is getting more extreme every year for wind speeds or wind velocity, however like term that, precipitation, rainfall, like how deep the water is. Like all of these things, temperatures are going completely off the charts. Every time we're still pegging the old ass scale that we used to have. They haven't put any new for these new extreme parameters that we know are inbound here, forecast to be inbound. You think with our modern technology and AI, they could just whip one up in just a matter of a day. Okay, we put a 600-inch band in there. Why can't they do that? Is it so difficult for our government paid agencies to add different bands outside their normal pegged bands already? Can we not ask that much? You got AI. Can't you do that? Come on. You're just being lazy on the job, or you're covering the ramp up in extreme because you don't want to spook people. It's only A or B choice. There's really no other choice that it could be. Ineptitude, or you're hiding something. And I would just say generally the science dissemination agencies out there, what are you going to let us see or what are you not going to let us see? Snow for you. Spring northern hemisphere snow extent. So luckily, coming into spring, it looks like the snow is decreasing just on a general average, where we're getting less snow in the spring versus what we would in the middle of winter or even coming into the fall. Now, this is a 12-month moving mean. Now, this includes northern hemisphere, Europe is that red dotted line, and NA is North America. So they sandwiched all this data together. So just NH is the black line, northern hemisphere. But you can see generally it is a downtrend. Is it pegging? Are we bouncing off the bottom and going to increase? Because it does look like over, since 1965 or so, it has increased and decreased and increased again and then decreased. Now, shall it increase again? Because if you look from 1990 and if you draw a center line through that, it definitely looks like it's on the increase overall. But if you take it from 1970, yeah, it looks like it's decreasing. So you can, manipulate and massage the data any way you like. It's your chart. Have at it. And maybe it is all of these unusual snow and rain events because, well, all that water from the Hungatonga eruption, that dark green at 2022, that was boosh, come out of the ocean, 14% more moisture in our atmosphere, and then all that is coming out. Now, you can see it's pretty much dissipated except along the equator and some select areas, looks like about 30 north and maybe 60 north. Otherwise, it seems like it's pretty much come out of the atmosphere. And perhaps this is the remainder of it just all coming out in one fell swoop. The sun's not helping either. We had the KP rolling around 8, 9 the last few days, super incredible fast. I think it was around 1,200 kilometers per second solar wind, just incredible anomalies off of the sun as well. So what would you expect our weather to be like if we're going to switch from a stable period into an unstable period that was mapped on a 400-year cycle of comings and goings, of intensifications, or of let-ups? We've been in a very stable climate period for such a long time here. Now something's happening and it's noticeable for everybody to see. So you just ask yourself this: why is the world changing so much in front of us? Economy has to change. We got to go all digital. Asset ownership, whether it be a home or your car, everything, that's all in flux as well. You got people scooting all across the planet, as would be expected, population migration. And then we got the economy devolving and dissolving in front of us into something new that needs to morph out of that. Wait, you just described the fingerprint of a grand solar minimum, happens every single time. So what are the chances of all these things that disrupted society every time one of these events comes back again? And all of these events occurring in the exact same timeline, in the exact same 1 to 2 years, that all of these intensifications that are so in your face that we can't handle anymore as an engineered society. I'll leave it up to you to decide what you think it might be. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Please share with your friends and family. And speaking of preparedness, head over to My Patriot Supply. Check out that 72-hour food kit. They got a 4-week food supply, 2-week food supply, everything in your range of you getting prepared. Start small, start medium, start big, whatever. It's all covered. That link's in the description box below. Please remember, every time you purchase something from My Patriot Supply, it helps me keep this channel running with the information on air to bring it right back to you. So by helping My Patriot Supply, they're also helping me. And hopefully we can come to some solutions together here on the Adapt 2030 channel. I will see you next time. Bye for now.